Hey everybody, I'm Joseph, aka Rockstar Joe, and welcome to a Blerd's Intermission podcast. It's been a week since we've last spoke. I hope you all are doing well. On today's show, I'll discuss books, football, mental health, music, video games, philosophy, and a few other topics. Earlier this year, I had set a goal to read a minimum of 9 books. So far, I've read It's All in Your Head, The Alchemist, How to Develop a Superpower Memory, My Sister, the Serial Killer, You Were Born for This, and now I'm reading The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health by Rashida Walker. So I've only read about a couple pages of the first chapter. Chapter 1 is titled The Psychological Crisis is Real. Let's fight for our sanity together. I can't give too much away with what I've read so far, but if you're black or brown, you can understand what I mean by, the language and the communication that she uses is something that speaks to us. As I, progress and read this book even further, I would love to share some of the things that I've discovered within that book on the FUBU segment. But, when the time is right, we'll get there. But for now, what I will say is, as a young African-American man, and I say this to all boys and men included, but mainly my brothers, it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to express how you feel without including your dick. Having emotions does not make you gay at all. I'll never forget the experience that I had with my father at graduation last year. It was graduation. Like I said, my birthday just passed, about to graduate with my bachelor's. And, leading up to it, I just told a lot of people, like, man, this day I'm going to be heavily emotional. Like, you're going to get the tears, you're going to get all of that. Some of the people that be in attendance, obviously, my mother, grandmother, my daughter, my brother, sister, uncles, mentors. Like, there's just going to be a lot of people that I have to thank and I just want to celebrate with. So I already knew coming into that day, I'll be emotional. One of the invitations that I had extended was to my father. You can say our relationship has never really been the best. I definitely respect everyone, but it's just for some odd reason, me and him could not get along. And this isn't to, bash my father, but it's my reality and this is my story. So, like I said, as graduation continued, I was already sitting in the crowd nervous. And, when they called my name, Joseph Yusuf, I just got up and the butterflies that was in my stomach, was just there. But being able to walk across that stage and just, see family, friends, cheering your name, getting those applause, like it was a very touching and humbling experience. And, fast forward to the end of the show, where everyone disperses and comes outside and meet their, family and celebrate with them and everything. And I came across and I saw my mother first. And after my mother, I saw, the family and friends, the mentors. I saw everyone. Everyone is coming up to me. And, one of the first people that I saw after a while was my daughter. And that's why I just went to her, grabbed her, gave her a nice big hug. I think I was crying. I think there is a picture of me literally holding her and crying. But it's like me just being excited because I finally accomplished another goal. But, after I'm done crying, with my daughter and, just saying thank you to everyone and just, chatting and, just wasting time at that point. After a while, my mother tells me like, hey, your father's here. I'm just like, what? Like, holy shit. Like, wow, this guy, really came through on that invitation. And so, I was nervous because I think it had been a while. I haven't seen my father at that point probably in a year. So I was like, that's great. That's really great. He showed up. Great. So I see him from afar. And as he's coming, closer towards the crowd, he gets closer. And I'm still emotional. Like I said, keep in mind, I already told people I'm going to be emotional this day. And so as he gets closer, I approach him. I'm on the verge of just crying even more tears. And so I'm going towards this man to get a hug, to be comfort, Because one thing, growing up, we've never hugged. I barely looked that man in the eyes. Barely hugged, barely said I love you, all that great shit. But I'm going towards this man, asking for a hug. And as I approach him, he's just like, whoa, what are you doing? He was like, why are you crying? Be a man. And, when he said that, I just took a step back because I was just like, what the fuck? Like, out of all people, out of all people, seriously, man, out of all people, he had the audacity to say, be a man. What are you doing? And it fucked me up. It really did. I took a step back and I just looked at him. I don't know, all the frustration and rage that I just had over the years, I just let it out. And I'm telling this man, like, who the fuck are you to tell me, be a man? It's like, you haven't been to a graduation since, pre-kindergarten or kindergarten? This is the first graduation you showed up to since I was a baby. When my daughter was born, you told me I would be a no good father. I don't think you know what you're doing. It's this constant system and this constant relationship with just me being, not good enough for the dreams that he set for me. And like I said, man, I won't get too deep into that, but I let him have it. I definitely did. And I found it funny, after I cussed him out, the only thing he could do was just give me like that white people smile. You know how you don't smile, but then you really do smile, but you're not showing any teeth, so your lips and face is just making that expression. I'm just like, man, whatever. After a while, he just walked off. I didn't hear from him for like a whole solid year. Like, I just heard from him a couple weeks ago, and that was due to Corona. I know his birthday's coming up soon. I probably won't. Well, I'm not gonna say I probably won't, but I won't be a dick. I'll definitely send him a, happy birthday text. But yeah, that's that story. So I say that to say, like, mental health is key. I don't appreciate shit like that. I don't appreciate these norms that black men have. You shouldn't cry. You're strong. You're tough. This is nothing new. Oh, suck that shit up. It's like, fuck no. I'm a man. Okay? I am a man. Yes, I'm black. Yes, we go through shit. Yes, that's a story. That's our story. But no, that's not acceptable. It's okay to have emotions. Telling a man that he can't express himself is probably one of the worst things anyone can tell a human being, especially if you're black. Like, come on, after all the shit we done been through, the shit that we're continuing to go through, that doesn't make sense, man. I'll say my mental health has definitely been targeted since I was in elementary school. It just didn't start with my father, but it definitely started at home and school. Growing up, being blessed with being dark-skinned was just a difficult task. That wasn't something that, kids wasn't used to, teenagers were used to. Because by all means, all the fucking jokes I receive, blackness, Dark Vader, midnight, if you close your eyes, you won't see yourself at night. All those dumbass jokes that just become corny over time. But, these jokes were the basis of, me being bullied. Me, thinking, looking in the mirror and thinking to myself, like, man, you're not worthy enough. Like, honestly, it took my ass a long time to build the confidence to look in the mirror and be like, yo, you're handsome. I always found it funny how when I was younger and as I growed up, all the older women be attracted to me, like, oh, damn, like, what's good? You handsome? Oh, man, you're just a little too young. Meanwhile, that people in my age group be with the bullshit, like, oh, you're not badass enough. You're not light enough. You don't disrespect me enough. All this bullshit. Like, come on, man. The world is weird, I tell you. Like, being dark-skinned really did become a fashion. I swear it did. Because it wasn't always like this. It wasn't. Another point that I wanted to share within this, mental health aspect was my experience from 2015. So, like I said, my mental has always been a target ever since I was in in elementary school. Things definitely took a drastic change in 2015. I'll never forget it. This was my sophomore year at UDC. I just came off of just being this great person. Like, I just came off of just doing a lot of things for different nonprofits within the, DMV region. One of the opportunities I had was to, fly out to Indianapolis for this youth convention. And then when I came back, this another organization gave me an opportunity to fly out to New Orleans for another convention. Like, I was just a busy man. My face was popping. I was just, like, everywhere, man. And I remember when I came back from Indianapolis, it was August. and I was just about to head out to New Orleans. I remember, laying in my bed one day, just scrolling through my phone on my timeline, and I came across this Fox 5 article, and it was basically describing another homicide. And, as I'm reading this article, there's a name that pops out. This name, we'll give this person the name D. When D's name came across, the first time I was just like, I wonder, is this the person I know? Originally, I thought it was a classmate that I had, went to school with. But as time progressed in that day, I found out that it wasn't. But that still didn't, delay the bad news. I remember my mother, yelling downstairs like, Joe. And I'm like, what? And she's like, D done passed. And I'm just like, D as in who? And so I discovered, D was a childhood friend that I had grown up with. He was around his neighborhood just chilling. And people began to just shoot. And, he was around his way with some of his friends. And, they began running. And he pushed somebody out the way. And I guess as he pushed this person out the way, he got shot, collapsed to the ground, and eventually, passed away. And so when I went to New Orleans, I had to deal with that. And I was just like, in a more fucked up mental headspace. And I told myself, when I'm here, you know what, let me get a tattoo. And I remember being near the canal and just, on that strip, I was just like, man, I need a tattoo shop. I forgot the name of the tattoo shop, but I remember just going in. I'm like, yo, can I get this tattoo done? Long story short, when I was in New Orleans, I ended up getting this tattoo. And the tattoo is the peace sign, the heart, and a plus sign, which all comes together and says peace, love, positivity. And so, I was like, I definitely need that in my life. The trip was great, I definitely made the most of it. And then when I came back home, just probably, a week or two later, somebody else I knew got shot and killed. Then an additional week or two after that, somebody else I knew got killed. A couple weeks after that, a family member just passed away. A couple weeks after that, another family passed away. So within the fall semester of 2015, I had lost 5 people, back to back. Like it was just crazy. And you want to talk about emotions, being mentally fucked up. I was afraid to come outside. I was afraid to live. I was just afraid to do anything. Like after a certain amount of time, if it's dark out, I'm trying to ask people, can I get a ride? Can I get this? I just don't feel safe. No matter what time of the day it was, I just didn't feel safe. And it really fucked me up because, growing up, I've always been in that situation where I lost loved ones and I lost friends, but it was never this consistent, this immediate. And it led me to think like, yo, am I next? Because that's another fear I also have, or I used to have. I used to fear, dying young. And yeah, I used to fear dying young. And it's just amazing. Just like how I was able to escape. I wouldn't even say escape. It's amazing how I survived that time period. Because man, I was scared. Really scared. Afraid to do any and everything. Like I said, I just try to hang on. I try to hang on in there. With me being afraid, obviously, I try to turn to self-medicating, smoking weed, drinking. Obviously, drinking didn't work. Like, it went from weed to even being addicted to weed to doing acupuncture to trying to work out. Like, eventually, I don't know. Eventually, at some point, I just had to, like, take control of the fear that I had. Yeah, eventually, I, just willed myself back together. I'll definitely have to give a shout out to, Generation Hope for aiding me back to safety, Generation Hope at the time was just a huge supporter. Anything I needed, whether it was a friend, a voucher, just any and everything, man. Like, I'll never forget it. And I'm always thankful and grateful for that organization because I guarantee you, without them and their presence during that time, I don't think I would be here, honestly. I know people want to ask, like, what solutions did you end up coming up with to, really, come to terms and understand and process that moment of grief. Like I said, weed was definitely definitely a huge part of my acceptance of the situation. I know a lot of people like to say, oh yeah, I use weed, to basically mask my emotions. It's like, nah, in my case, I use it to confront it. Definitely being in a fucked up headspace, I wouldn't suggest smoking, because that'll give you some of the worst highs. Like I said, smoking weed, finding people that I can trust and talk to about the situations and the emotions that I was dealing with. Video games, definitely. Also, like, just spending time with my daughter in that time period. Weed, acupuncture, therapy, just talking to people that you trust, working out, like, all those things push me. And keep in mind, like I said, I was still a sophomore at UDC. And with all these deaths, I didn't take any time off from school. I still went to work. I still went to school. I'm still a parent. Nothing really changed outside of like me going to classes in that case, in that term. But with all those deaths being present, it just motivated me to do even more and be better. I believe at that time I had got a 3.3 GPA. With everything being present, I pushed myself harder to achieve that. And at the time, that was the highest GPA I've ever achieved at the time. From that point on, my GPA never went below 3.1. Turn a negative into a positive anytime you can. But yeah, that's my story for mental health. Wasn't expecting to go that deep, but it's there. Our next segment, For Us, By Us, aka FUBU. And as always, this is for my black and brown folks in the room. This isn't a political show, but voting is a part of our experience. And before I play this clip, I just want to give a warning. You may be triggered, you may be frustrated, but by all means, it'll be okay.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
So, as you heard in the clip, Joe Biden says, if you have a problem figuring out if you want to vote for me or Trump, you ain't black. The fucking audacity this man has, it doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. I listened to that whole interview with Joe Biden and Charlemagne on the Breakfast Club, and honestly, I'm not impressed. First, who in the hell does this guy think he is? Seriously. Black people already struggle with the stigmas and stereotypes that's been imposed by us and from all angles. But for a white, gray-haired, 77-year-old man to come out his mouth and say, if you have a problem voting for me or Trump, you ain't black. My guy, I am flabbergasted. This shit makes no sense. I guess for you all, my question is, what do our votes mean? In a country that loves to hate us, there's a history of when we show up, we show out. But seriously, what do our votes mean? White supremacy is one of America's worst terrorists. Yet, America, and that's with 3 Ks and 2 As, decides to get even more aggressive and challenge the greater good in eradicating the bigger problem that lies in front of us. I don't know, man. That's all I'll say about that. Also, before I, continue on with the segment, I have to take a moment and acknowledge the bullshit that has recently transpired. Rest in peace to George Floyd. Yesterday I definitely seen the video circulating on social media where a white cop in Minneapolis, basically has his knee on this black guy's neck. And as a video, throughout the duration of the video, you just see the life of this black man just slowly fade out. The shit is sad, man. It really is. I get tired of saying RIP to these innocent black folks. It just makes no sense, man. At some point, there's going to be that one group that says, fuck it, I'm done with this shit. And then there'll be a war between black folks and cops. Well, black folks and white America again. All I can advise at this very moment, man, stay safe, be vigilant. And if you're a black man, continue to live your life. Don't be afraid. If you feel afraid, and you are afraid, whip out the camera, hit record. That's all I have for Us, By Us, or the FUBU segment. Up next is music. I've been going back recently. Well, this past month, I've been listening a lot to Mac Miller and some of his albums. The 2 albums that stand out the most to me at this very moment is Good AM and Swimming. Those 2 albums have been on repeat. I didn't realize how great of a musician Mac was, to be honest. But I swear, Good AM has some of the what I call it classics. You got Brand Name, Rush Hour, Two Matches, 100 Grandkids, Time Flies, Weekend, Clubhouse, In the Bag, Break the Law, Perfect Circle, Godspeed. Yo, that song is probably one of the most emotional songs that I've heard by Mac Miller. I think when he first passed away and I listened to it, it just hit me. I began to just cry because it seemed like he just knew his time was coming. But if you had a chance, check it out. All the other songs in that album, When in Rome, ROS, and Cut the Check. Like, when I say this, like, this is an album. That's an album you can honestly press play and do whatever else you got to do. I guarantee you, every song you'll be moving and grooving to. When it comes to swimming, my favorite tracks off that album is Hurt Feelings, What's the Use, Ladders, Conversation Part 1, and Jet Fuel. Like I said, 2 incredible albums. If you can, go check them out. For the flashback classics selection that I, have on Sundays, this time around I decided to revisit Quincy Jones and Miles Davis live at the Mantra album. My uncle, aka mentor, recommended that I give it a listen. He considered it to be one of the greatest jazz albums of all time. I have yet to finish it, but I definitely listened to 75% of it. I won't disagree, but I'll definitely have to re-listen. Definitely got to give a shout out to the greatest producer of all time, Quincy Jones. Another song I wanted to also mention was Do for Love by Tupac. I swear, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm about to be in love. Who knows? But I swear, just listening to that song on a Sunday, man. But I love that song. Originally, the What You Won't Do for Love was sampled by Bobby Caldwell. Yeah, just wanted to share that random fact, though. Definitely go check out that song as well. And while I am still on music, another piece that I wanted to share. This is for producers, singers, rappers, those who are ready to, take themselves to the next level. Because I get tired of seeing this on Twitter. I see a lot of great potential, a lot of great artists saying, oh, hey, go check my shit out on SoundCloud. SoundCloud this, SoundCloud that, SoundCloud this. And by all means, I'm not down to SoundCloud. SoundCloud was something that I used originally when I first began to, produce music. A couple years back, like I mentioned in the first episode, a few years back, I had produced my first album. It was a spoken word album. It was the first time I jumped out there, threw something to the internet and said, hey, this is really me. And I was able to upload my album to all the major platforms. This include Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube Music, just any and all platforms. And I was able to do this with the annual fee of like $35 a month. And so if you're interested, look into DistroKid. Like I said, I paid about $35 a year, annually to have the right to upload all my music to all these platforms and to actually make, to make a revenue as well. The more streams and plays I get, the more I get back. But, obviously, like I said, I don't do this for the money just yet or for the popularity. I just do this for the fact of, expressing myself for my mental health. Like I said, if you're interested, you want to take yourself to the next level, you want to make money for your shit, invest into DistroKid. Not like I said, there's nothing wrong with SoundCloud. But that'll wrap up the music segment. Hopefully, you guys go ahead and follow up with some of those suggestions that I put out there. Up next is video games. I don't know how many of my listeners play video games, but I know I do. And, my question for you guys is, during quarantine, what games have you been playing? I know for me, something I've been playing is God of War, NBA 2K20, Red Dead Redemption 2, Payday, and I'm not afraid or ashamed to admit this, but Sims 4. That shit is addictive, man. Especially when you got all the DLC packs, or at least a good portion of them. Yeah, it's like playing chess. I can sit there for hours and hours and hours and just be satisfied, man. But yeah, let me know what y'all playing, if y'all do play any games. And last but not least, I just wanted to, get into philosophy. That's one of the things I love to talk about and discuss. And if I can, I would say my favorite philosopher is Alan Watts. If you don't know him, by all means, please do your research. If you have the time, I would say look on YouTube and type in "what if money was no object." If you're struggling to, find inspiration, struggling to, have your own identity, by all means, look up that video, focus in on it. And I guarantee you, they'll just be the push you need. What got me introduced to him was via Logic, actually. I remember it was on the Incredible True Story, and it was the last track on the album. As Logic fades off on his last rap, there's this segment that goes into just discovering and knowing yourself. It's basically a piece of, what if money was no object? And, that was just the introduction. And since then, I've been trying to, read into his works. He has quite a handful of books as well. But if you can, definitely check out some of his lectures. Yeah, the shit that he talks about, man, just mind-opening. It really is. So, like I said, if you have the chance to, do some more research, definitely take the time to, look into Alan Watts. All right, but yeah, that's pretty much it. In closing, as the week progresses, I hope everyone stays safe. Definitely, if you haven't, reached out to your loved ones, your friends, check in on them, make sure they're good, I'm currently dealing with deaths of my own. It feels similar to 2015, but less violent. Within the past 2-3 months, some classmates, a co-worker, an acquaintance, and it's sad. I believe 3 out of 4 victims are leaving kids behind. And, if you know me, that just fucks up my whole mental space right now. Because I'm just like, God damn. Some of these kids have lost their father and mother, So, on a good note, I'll close out with saying, continue to look out for one another. Continue to spread joy. I challenge any and everyone who listens to this podcast to at least reach out to one person and make their day. Whether that's you telling them you love them, you highlighting something that they love about themselves, or, surprising them with a random gift. Whatever it is, man, just show them that you care. Give them their roses while they're still here so they can smell them. Stay safe. Continue to be great. I'll check in with you guys next time. Peace.